I'm currently living in an Airbnb right now, and I want to do a review and my thoughts on what are the biggest pros and cons of an Airbnb versus a hotel. I've lived in over 50 to 60 Airbnbs in my lifetime, some for long extended stays, and I really want to give you what I like and don't like. But I want to condense this down to the biggest thing I like about them that's better than hotels, and the biggest thing that's worse about them that are is not as good as hotels. So let's start with the worst one, the negative, because that's always easy to get out. It's in the forefront of my mind. Um, Now, as a caveat, I love Airbnbs. I usually take them over hotels, like 9 times out of 10, because they're just so homely, they're incredible, and I'll get into some of the big benefits. But the biggest negative is essentially the customer service and check-in process and communication with the host, especially when things get gnarly, uh, that you won't get or will likely not happen. I can't say will never happen, but will likely not happen as often if you're dealing with the customer service of a hotel. So what do I mean? I'm talking, had one instance in Albuquerque where the host overslept. She took a nap, and then I drove like a long time to get there, and then it was like a several hour drive, and by the time I got there, she overslept. She wasn't responding, and she said she wanted to meet me at the door to hand over the keys. So if you want a more seamless experience, you can filter Airbnbs for a self check-in experience, but that might filter out the amount of options you have for an Airbnb. But a self check-in option is always my preference. I won't necessarily make that a requirement, but it's always welcome. What else? Well, another thing is this whole idea where some of these hosts, and you'll only see this when you get into like some type of issue with them, but some hosts will have a mentality of, well, I'm not wrong, this business isn't wrong, you're wrong. And so the whole idea of the customer is always right, it doesn't register in their brains. Or even the fact that, oh, the customer is giving me feedback to improve my business experience for future customers. That doesn't register for them. They just think of it as, this person is criticizing me, I'm going to argue back, they're wrong, and so forth. There's been two instances, there's probably more, but there's two big instances, both parking related, where they just would not even take any feedback. And they're like, I've never had anyone else complain about this. You're wrong. This is ridiculous. And they would argue back with me. Like one of them on the phone, like visibly like arguing back and just saying all this stuff. And without going into too long of a story, because these are both long stories, both parking related, by the way. But yeah, you would never find this with a hotel, because first they would have plentiful parking, not this like cluttered parking where you have to like sift your way into a place. But the long and short of it is, one time I came in the dead of night, parked somewhere. It was covered parking. I got towed, had to pay $200 cash, and it was a whole ordeal because all my documents and cards were in the car that got towed. So then I had to get cash somehow without having cash. And it was a whole ordeal, big issue, and they refused to even admit they were wrong in any way. They were like, you should have figured it out. There's a big sign in the gate that comes in before you park. Dude, it's like pitch black when I arrive. How was I supposed to see that gate? And I was tired, and so I missed the sign, didn't know that you couldn't park in covered, got towed, and they said, it's your fault, you have to pay for it all. It was just super ridiculous. Then there's the other one. Now, they did give me like a little bit, I think as a courtesy, they gave me like $25, or like maybe it was like $30, something back as like a courtesy, which is better than nothing, but still they refused to admit anything wrong, which was just terrible. Despite me talking to them about. And then another time it happened was in California. The first one was in Houston. Second one was in California, and once again, a long story, but to keep it very short, a few hours like into the night, they tell me the next morning, you have to park in the driveway because there's street cleaning. And I go through this whole ordeal where I'm like trying to figure out how I'm supposed to park there when two cars already took the driveway. And I'm telling them, you have multiple guests, more than two, staying in your house. You have to preemptively plan for this and not tell me like the night of, hours before, when I'm already really tired. Long and short of it, like they were this person on the phone. By the way, both of these people just so happen to be Asian women who are immigrants and can't speak English perfectly. You could tell the accent. I don't know if there's a correlation there, but like, you know, to them, like they're probably like, this is like a small business to them. So they haven't mastered business. They don't know exactly how to best deal with customers and customer service. So they're kind of probably doing all this, juggling all this stuff as a host. And so I just think it's a terrible move to be like, argue with the customer and say they're wrong and like not take that feedback. Anyhow, long story short, we get it handled, but like basically all these slots are filled, and they tell me to park like basically in front of one of the cars in the driveway. And I'm like, what in the heck is going on? Huge hassle. I get really angry about it because I'm tired. It's the end of the day. And I probably should have kept my temper in check, but it was just very tough. And once that was all said and done, it ended up working out in a way, but just super stupid. Would not take my feedback like that. They should have told me a few days before, because knowing that this happens, they told me it happens every week on the same day. Knowing that I was staying here for a while and I had a few days ahead start, they could have planned it out or something, rather than just tell me, oh, two cars park here. But long and short, it's a long story, but long and short of it, it all worked out. But it was such a hassle. And the way they responded was just not ideal. By saying, oh, no one's ever complained about this, and basically saying I'm wrong, it just creates something that would have never happened at a hotel. First off, they would have had plentiful parking, and second off, they would have been much nicer and said, we'll take that feedback into account or something, and got it done. But so strange the hassles you have to deal with an Airbnb.